Okay, so good morning everyone. Today we are going to start with the 7th assignment. So the title of your assignment is Implement Dimensionality Reduction using PCA on IRIS dataset. So let's talk about what is the PCA actually. I'll just tell you in a short that PCA is one of the most powerful techniques in a field of data science. Here it deals with the dimensionality reduction. Dimensionality reduction nothing but let us say you are having a data set of let us say flowers, and the flowers has various features like color, sizes, the weight of flower or anything else. So whatever dimensions are there, let us say there are n number of dimensions, and sometimes it is not possible for you to work on each and every dimension. So in that case what you are going to do, you are doing a dimensionality reduction, where instead of focusing on all of the features that are available, you focus only on selected features. Okay, so this selection of features based on certain criteria. Okay, so this dimensionality reduction, it is specifically done using principal component analysis. So this is like you want to simplify the features of a data set without losing any much of the information. So you are going to choose some of the features such that it won't affect on the information that is available to you, right? So suppose you are having a, let us say, data set which has the features color, sizes, weights, and you want to work on these features by selecting, let us say, only colors on size. You are not going to consider weight. So you are going to your focus should be on using these features, but you are also taking care of information loss is not there. Okay, so principal component analysis, this method helps you to have your aim of dimensionality reduction. So here we will demonstrate this working of principal component analysis with a simple data set, that is a IRIS data set, which is the most classical data set in the field of machine learning and data science. Here the key points that we should focus on is we know that whenever we are dealing with a real world data, it often has many correlated features, right? So high dimensions are there. We have a data with vast dimensions, right? And sometimes such a high dimensional data, it can be redundant or it can be noisy, right? Yes, na? So here whenever we are having such noisy data set with us, we aim on dimensionality reduction, which aims to reduce the computation cost. We try to avoid the overfitting. We try to improve the visualization techniques, right? So these are the basic things that we need to focus on whenever we are working with any data set, right? So here let us say, suppose the analogy that you can have is a real-time example. Suppose you are having a song, right? And you want to compress that song. So what you generally do, you just keep whatever important notes are there, right? So you keep only those important notes and you try to reduce the file size. So this is what you usually do in whenever you are going to compress any song which is in an audio format, right? So in the same way, this principal component analysis works, where you aim on selecting only important features and don't consider the features those are having very least importance. Okay, so the first thing that you will do is you will load the IRIS dataset that is available. Okay, in Python it's already there, so you simply load the IRIS dataset with your Python code, or if you want to download the updated IRIS dataset, you can download it from Kaggle also. So you have two options. So it is like use inbuilt IRIS dataset that comes with your Python suite, or download it from Kaggle. So anyway will work for you. Then we will standardize features of the iris dataset to same scale, so that the principal component analysis it works properly. Okay, so what you do is we apply the principal component analysis to reduce certain features from some dimension to some new dimension. Let us say I am having 4 features, so it's like I am working with 4 dimensions, right? Then instead of using all 4 dimensions, I apply principal component analysis so that I will reduce that 4 dimension to 2 dimensions. So instead of selecting 4 dimensions, I will select only 2 dimensions of it. So that's what the PCA actually do. Then in this assignment we will plot a 2-dimensional scatter plot showing the clusters of species. So here we are having 3 species and we will show the 2D scatter plot for those species. The iris dataset is nothing but it's a dataset of flowers where you have certain information about the flowers. Okay. Then this assignment also prints the variance. Variance is nothing but it's like how much of the information is to be retained and how much is to be written by the principal components. So this is what is expected in your 7th assignment. Load the dataset, standardize the features to certain scale, then apply the principal component analysis from 4 dimension to 2 dimension, then plot the 2-dimensional scatter plot and then print the variance. So these are the goals of this assignment. Let us see all the things one by one. Okay. Before going into actual detail, just to know or to have some additional information about the dimensionality reduction. What dimensionality reduction is, I have told you there are several methods of dimensionality reduction apart from PC only. Okay, so the major categorization of feature dimension reduction is into 3 types. So one is linear method, another is non-linear, that is also called as manifold learning methods, and third one is the feature selection method. So out of this, the linear methods, there are 3 types. Principal component analysis, that's what is expected over here, which projects whatever data you have onto the directions of the maximum variance of your data set. Then you have LDA method, that is linear discriminant analysis, which focuses on maximizing the separation between the classes of the data. And LDA usually uses the supervised methods. Supervised methods are nothing but whenever you have a data or you have the class labels, right? You have the label data with you. In that case, you go for the LDA analysis. Okay. Then another method which falls in the linear method is the factor analysis. The factor analysis method, it usually deals with finding out the latent variables, which are like explaining the correlations between the features. Okay, so this is done with the factor analysis. Second class of the dimensionality reduction are the non-linear methods, also called as manifold learning methods. Here there are 4 different methods, that is TSNE, that is T distributed stochastic neighboring embedding, which preserves the local structure of the data so that you can visualize the data in 2-dimensional or 3-dimensional. So whatever may be your data size, you are going to view the basic structure of the data with the help of 2D or 3D plots, that you are doing in TSNE method. Then you have another method, that is isomap, which preserves the global geometric structure of the data, that is overall structure of the data, right? For example, if what do you mean by local structure or global structure? Do you have any idea about it? Okay, let us say I am having one image. Okay, in that image I can have different shapes, right? I can have different objects. So the overall shape of the objects that is present is nothing but my global feature. That is what is the texture, what is the shape of the objects, right? What are the boundaries and all. So this is the global structure. The shapes represent the global structure of the image. Local structure of the image will be what is the color of the pixels, okay, what is the color of each and every pixel of the particular object, of the particular shape, right? So this is the local structure. So for image, I can say the color is the local feature and shape is the global feature, okay. Then another method is you have uniform manifold approximation and projection, which is like it usually deals with when you have very large amount of data with you. Then the last method for nonlinear is kernel PCA, that which usually captures the nonlinear structures using the kernels. So you have kernels is nothing but you have a separate manipulation window is given, and according to that manipulation window you perform your operations. So that is happening with the help of kernels. You don't have all these methods in your syllabus. You only have principal component analysis, which focuses on linear method and which projects on the directions of the maximum variance. So you only focus on PCA analysis. Then there is another method also, that is feature selection method. So based on variance thresholding or recursive feature elimination or mutual information extraction. So these are various methods. So let us understand in detail what do you mean by principal component analysis, which is the basis of today's assignment also. So what do you mean by dimension? Yes, what do you mean by dimension? Because principal component analysis, it focuses on whenever we need to perform dimensionality reduction. So what is dimension first? Let us understand that one. So you have your data set with you, you have multiple features for your data set, right? So every feature in that data set is called as a one dimension, okay. So if I am having 5 features, then it will be a 5 dimensions. If I am having 8 dimensions, that means I have 8 different unique features of my data set, okay. For our assignment, we are using iris dataset, which has only 4 features in it. So first feature is sepal length, another feature is sepal width, next feature is petal length, and another is the petal width, okay. So this is like the information about flower is present with you in iris dataset. So here each flower is called as a point in a 4-dimensional space. Why 4-dimensional space? Can someone tell me? Why I am calling a flower is like a point in a 4-dimensional space and not 3D, 5D, 7D, 8D? Yes, can someone tell me? Students, I am telling you something, you should respond, right? If you are present here, answer to my basic query. Why I call a flower like a point in a 4-dimensional space? No response from you. Anyone can unmute themselves and...
There are 4 features.
Right, yes. Because I am having 4 features, so I say this is a point in a 4D space. If I had 6 features, then I would say it like a 6 dimension. So depending on number of features, I am calling it as a respective dimension. So here dimensions I can also think is like, suppose I am having a single line with me, it's straight line, let us say, and I am trying to move that line or I am trying to move any object in that line, right? So moving onto a line is nothing but a 1-dimensional. So I can just relate this one. If suppose I am having a plane and I am trying to move the object in a plane, so it will be a 2-dimensional, right? If suppose I am moving the object into the room, so it is like 3-dimensional I am working, right? So the more number of additional features you have, you add the extra direction for your information, right? So generally we are able to recognize for 1-dimensional, 2-dimensional and up to 3-dimensional. We can't imagine or we can't visualize when we try to move any object into 4-dimensional. It is quite hard to imagine. Okay, so that's why whenever you are having multiple features with you, I want to visualize those with respect to 1D, 2D or 3D or at max 4D. But 4D we can't visualize, so that's why we are trying to go for feature reduction and we are applying the principal component analysis method on this. So this is why I told you why dimensional reduction is important, because humans can only visualize up to 3-dimensional and we are having too many features with us, and working on all of them it can be confusing many times, or they may also represent repeat information, which is quite like if you work on such repeated information again and again, it's just nothing but the loss of your time and loss of your resources. So we try to reduce the dimension, which will help us to visualize the data into 2D, 3D or 1D. It removes redundancy. For example, in our iris dataset, we have petal length and we have the petal width. So we can say that these are quite correlated features. Working on either petal length is sufficient or working on petal width is also sufficient. So in that way we try to choose whichever features are correlated with each other and either of them can be used. Dimensionality reduction, it also detects the patterns and clusters of the data, right? Because similar whichever similar patterns are there, they can be clustered together, right? And whichever are the different, they can be clustered into the different group. So if we apply the dimensionality reduction, it makes the machine learning faster and simpler, right? Because we are dealing with less number of features. So obviously whatever models I am going to build, I am having very less features to focus on, so my time is reduced, right? My processing time is obviously going to reduce in training and testing, right? And hence the model appear as if a very simpler one. Fine. One another analogy that I can have while dealing with dimensionality reduction, if you are not able to understand it at all, suppose I am having a very messy desk, right? On my desk I am having so many objects, right? So if I want to clean it, how I will clean? I will just keep the important things which are handy, which I want to be handy. So those only I would be keeping it on my desk, right? So in the same way, you process on the data set. You simply stack or organize whatever features are important and you apply PCA, that is principal component analysis, to do that. Okay. So here PCA is, as I told you, it is nothing but the principal component analysis, which is the method to reduce the dimensions while keeping the most important information to be handy, and it creates a new axis or the direction which is called as the principal components. So whatever number of features you have, based on those features you try to calculate the new directions or the new axis of the information, which are generally called as, every axis will be called as a respective principal component. Okay. So generally you go on computing principal component 1, principal component 2, principal component 3. So here the concept on this is PCA, in this assignment the PCA is going to find a new axis which captures the maximum variance in the data. Okay. Then whatever axes are there, those are orthogonal. So these are orthogonal, nothing but these are unrelated with each other. Okay. So if there is a correlation between two axes, then that means whatever calculation you have done, something is wrong with it. Okay. New axis must be uncorrelated with each other. Those should not be correlated. Okay. There should not be any correlation between two axes that you are going to compute. Okay. So in this, the first principal component, it captures the most variance. The second component, it captures the next most variance, and the third component, it captures the next to next most variant. Okay, so it is like the highest variance, then quite least one, and so on. So it is like that. Suppose I am having let us say number of points in a three-dimensional space. Then principal component analysis, it finds the direction where the cloud is staged at the most, that the data cloud I am talking about. That's your the first principal component, I would say, right? So it is like, suppose imagine n number of points I am having, and those n number of points I can visualize it onto the, let us say, 2D pane, right? So I am simply finding out how the data points are scattered. So wherever I locate, the maximum data points are grouped together. That I will call it as the first principal component. Then I will find out another set of data points where those are scattered, like but that quantity is lesser than the first one, so that will be my second principal component. Similarly, third principal component, fourth principal component, and so on. Okay, but we usually compute the 3D points only. We generally compute the cloud of 3D points only. So here the mathematical intuition that is involved while doing this all process of PCA, we first center the data, then we compute the covariance matrix for the data, then we compute its eigenvectors and eigenvalues. Here the mathematical part about eigenvectors, eigenvalues calculations, we are not going to do it. We are simply using the ready-made functionalities that are available with the Python, and we are going to proceed. Then we sort the eigenvectors by eigenvalues so that they will define the new accesses of your principal components. Then we project the data onto the top k components that we have found. So this is the overall working of PCA. So as I told you, PC1 is your first principal component, which gives you the direction with the most variation of the data. Then PC2 is the second principal component. It gives you the direction with the second most variation, and this PC2 is usually perpendicular to the PC1. That is the theory behind how you are going to choose the principal components. Then PC3 and PC4 and up to PCN, so they go on capturing the smaller variations of your data, and each principal component being orthogonal to the previous PCs. Like PC2 is perpendicular to PC1, then PC3 would be perpendicular to PC2, PC4 will be perpendicular to PC3, and so on. Okay, so so in short, the principal component analysis, it is the statistical method that transforms correlated features into the set of uncorrelated components. Okay, each principal component captures as much as variance possible, right? Okay, so here our main aim of doing all these things is to have the features with the minimal information loss. If I need to give one analogy for how principal components they look like generally, so let us imagine like PC1 is like the longest shadow of, let us say, group of points, and PC2 is next longest shadow at some right angle. Okay, similarly same thing for the PC3 also. We are doing all this kind of processing, but what is the importance of it? Like, why principal component analysis is very useful? Because we are able to view the data in a simpler manner, like in fewer dimensions, right? You can just compare. I'm having 100 features and looking at all 100 features versus just looking at 20 features of it, right? So which one is the simpler? Obviously selecting 20 features, which will give you the overall information about the data set. That is more simpler. Okay. Then it removes the noise, or it removes the redundant information. I can see the patterns very clearly with 2D or 3D plots instead of some additional features, right? So PCA is also useful because it helps us to create new features which are created based on the existing ones. Okay. So this is nothing but a kind of transformation you are applying on your existing features. So PCA, in short, it identifies the new axis, that is principal components, which along the directions of the maximum variance I told you. Okay, so let's just move ahead quite. Here the PCA, it standardizes the data where we have the mean value is equals to 0 and variance is equals to 1. So we are trying to have this situation for our data. Okay, so this is the standardization that we are going to apply. Then we compute the covariance matrix. This covariance matrix, it measures the relationship between the features. Then we find the eigenvectors and eigenvalues. Here eigenvectors are nothing but the directions, that is the principal components, and eigenvalues are nothing but the magnitude, which represents the variance, that is the what variance we have captured. Then we sort eigenvectors by descending eigenvalues. This is the process that we are following. Then after sorting, we project whatever data we have onto the top k components. Okay, if I have 3 components, I will plot the data into 3 components. If I have 2 components, I will plot the data into 2 components, and so on. So this is what the step-by-step procedure that we are going to have in our assignment. So PCA can be thought of as finding the best line or plane or hyperplane that preserves overall structure of the data with minimal loss. Okay, so this is the most important line about PCA. So in Viva, if you are supposed to ask what is PCA, then you can just provide these features along with this single line. Okay. Okay, so let's come back to our IRIS dataset. So how PCA is applicable to our IRIS dataset? Why PCA should be used on IRIS dataset? Because we have said, it's not like that we are having this in our assignment, so we are going to study. No, there is a particular reason for that. Okay, so IRIS dataset is very simplest dataset and very standard dataset. Here IRIS dataset has 4 features, as I told you: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. Okay, so each flower is a point in a 4-dimensional space. So it is like quite impossible for a normal human to visualize anything in a 4D space, because we can't go beyond 3D, right? We can't visualize anything beyond 3D. It's very like we are not that much intellectual, that's why. Okay, so here some features in IRIS dataset, these are similar or correlated. For example, petal length and petal width. So we say that as much as my length increases, my width also can be increased, right? Because it depends how much flower has grown. So depending on that, the petal length and width, I can consider it as quite correlated with each other. So most of the times the longer petals, we call it as the usually those are wider, so that there is a direct relationship between these 2 features. So we say that these 2 features are having the repeated information. So whenever I am having a repeated information, there is a chance to reduce the dimension of or we can say there can be a possibility of dimensionality reduction. So instead of using both features, I can go for only one. So here the dimensionality reduction is applicable. That's why we are going to choose the IRIS dataset. Okay, it is not like that that principal component analysis is applicable on each and every dataset. It's not like that. we have to choose whether PCA has to be applied or not. Whenever we are having a repeated information or correlated features, we can decide to apply PCA on that. Okay, got it? So this is the reason why we are using PCA on iris dataset. Okay. So in our iris dataset, PCA finds the best new directions to view the data, that is for flowers. So these directions capture most of the variation while ignoring the redundancy. So here we calculate PC1 and PC2. So these are PC1 is direction where flowers are most spread out, we can say that. So it's like that, suppose I am having a garden full of flowers and I am viewing at particular point. Okay, so generally how I view towards a garden whenever I am in a garden? Yes, wherever I get a very good or the best view, है ना, वहीं पे मेरी नज़र जाएगी, right? So it's nothing but like that. I am going to select a particular direction to view something which gives me the best information. So PCA1 is that first direction, ठीक है. देन उसके बाद मैं PC2 मतलब एक अलग सा डायरेक्शन जहाँ पे कि मुझे थोड़ा सा कम ब्यूटीफुल विजन दिखेगा, राइट, है ना. So similarly here also I am looking at the features of iris dataset across these two directions, PC1 and PC2. Then we plot the flowers using PC1 and PC2. So here we have setosa, which is a separate cluster. Then we have versicolor and virginica, that is the partially separated features, I can say. And here the patterns are hidden in 4-dimensional, now has become visible into 2 dimensions, like PC1, PC2, where PC1 is for setosa and PC2 is for versicolor and virginica. Okay. So these things I am going to visualize in my assignment. Okay, so in this way we have iris initially as 4 features, that is 4 dimensionals, and we have reduced those 4 features into 2 or 3 principal components at max. Okay, so that we are able to visualize the clusters of flowers of iris dataset. We have removed the redundant information and we have revealed the hidden patterns very clearly, and we simplify the machine learning task by doing the principal component analysis. So let us move towards the coding part now. First is import all necessary libraries. So here we need to focus on loading on iris dataset. Then we are going to perform plotting of 2-dimensional and 3-dimensional graphs, right? In our assignments we are going with only 2D plots. 3D is not required over here. Then we also require we need to do standardizing of features, so we need to import library for that. Then we need to import the library for principal component analysis, mathematical calculations that deals with the dimensionality reduction. So here these are the 4 necessary libraries. Import matplotlib.pyplot as PLT for working with graphs, 2D and 3D graphs. Then we need to load iris dataset from sklearn. So we use from sklearn.dataset import load_iris. This will load the iris dataset into your environment. Then we need to import from sklearn.preprocessing import standard scalar. So this library is required for standardizing the features of your dataset. Then to apply PCA we need to import from sklearn.decomposition import PCA. After importing necessary libraries, next step is to load the iris dataset, right? So we use iris is equals to load_iris which will load the built-in iris dataset into your working directory. Then I need to deal with the feature matrix. The feature matrix I have, like in iris dataset I am having different entries, right? So those entries are nothing but your features. So here you will see there are total 150 samples and 4 features. So x is equals to iris.data, these values will be stored over here. Then y is equals to iris.target, this will label the array representing the different species, different flower species. Okay, so here whatever flower species are there, those are labeled with 0, 1 and 2. Then I am simply assigning or I am just storing the iris.target names into the target names variable. So here the names of species I have, let us say setosa, versicolor and virginica. These are the species, flower species. So these will be stored into the target underscore names. I hope you are doing now this coding simultaneously. If you want, you can just do simultaneous coding also. Then I am simply checking or printing the shape of the dataset which I have. If I have opened that iris dataset, I can just count 150 by 4. So same thing I am printing with the help of x.shape. So this will give you me the original data shape. Next step is we haven't processed anything yet. We simply have done certain kind of labeling, and we have identified what are the names of species the dataset is having. Okay, as a next step we are going to standardize the features. So PCA works best when the features have some similar scales. Then only I can what I can say, I can just choose on the features. Like if 2 features are correlated, then I can say that the PCA is applicable here, and I can select some feature, I can select those features and I can standardize those features into some new scale, right? So here standard scalar I am using. So the standard scalar, it creates the scalar object. So I am just storing scalar is equals to standard scalar. Then x underscore scaled is equals to scalar dot fit transform I am applying. So here I am going to standardize the data. I am going to standardize the data by value minus mean divided by deviation. So this is how the mathematical calculation takes place in fit transform, scalar dot fit transform. Okay, we are not going to do this manual calculation over here. Okay, internally it will be done by scalar dot fit transform for you. Then in next step I am applying principal component analysis to reduce 4-dimensional data to 2-dimensional. So I want to keep the top 2 principal components. If this is my aim, then what I will do, I will just call PCA function, PCA module, and in that I will pass one argument. The argument will be n underscore component. So I will assign the value of 2 because I want to keep the top 2 principal components. If I want to assign the top 3 components, I would have kept it 3. If I wanted to have the top 1 component, like only PC1 if I need to deal with, then n underscore component, it will be set to 1. So this is how I am going to keep the top 2 principal components for iris dataset. If I am having a dataset of size, let us say 100, and I want to have, let us say 20 principal components, generally we don't go for that. We generally go for PC1, 2 and 3 only. Then accordingly I will specify over here. So up till now we initialize the PCA with n components is equals to 2. That means we will reduce our 4-dimensional data into 2 dimensions. Here the fit underscore transform, this method fits the model and it applies the dimensionality reduction in this single step. So here at the back end of all these calculations, this method uses the covariance matrix of the covariance matrix and the eigenvalues calculations and its decomposition. So that is done in a backside. Okay, then after this standard, after applying the PCA, that after I have reduced 4 dimension to 2 dimension, now I want to fit the PCA and transform the data. That is my next part. So here I will do x underscore PCA is equals to PCA dot fit underscore transform, and I will provide x scaled as the argument. So whatever I have after standardization. Just a minute. Okay, so whatever I have after standardization, I will pass that one as argument to PCA dot fit underscore transform. Then in next step, I will simply plot the 2-dimensional PCA results. So I am just setting the figure size to do plotting. So plt dot figure, and in bracket I will specify fixed size is equals to, let us say, 8,6. Then I need to specify the colors for, like, let's say RGB, that is the color model that I can specify, that is red, green and blue for 3 species. Okay, because I am having here I want to do I want to simply use a color model over here. Okay, so here now what we will do, I have these 3 species like red, green and blue, right? So I want to loop through each species and plot its points. So that is my aim. Okay, so here I will just run a for loop. So for target comma color comma label in zip 012 comma colors comma target name. So these are my arguments that I can have. So here what I will specify, like I want to specify PC1 values for these 3 species, I want to specify PC2 values for these 3 species, then I have to specify the color for the species, that how it should look like, right? Then I have to provide certain label that should be appeared on my plot. So that is, let us say, my legend. I want to give certain heading to this, na? So I should provide a label over here, that that label is for providing the legend. Then I'm just simply making alpha is equals to 0.7 to provide the amount of transparency, that how the image should look like. Then eigen colors is equals to k. So this will like I'm simply specifying the edge color to improve the visibility. Okay, so this loop, this for loop, what it does, it simply takes care of how your plot is looking like. Okay, we have done with the PCA in earlier step only. Fine, now we are dealing with how I am going to visualize the data with the whatever plots I have. Then I will specify X label and Y label. So X label I'm having for principal component 1, Y label for principal component 2, and the title of the plot, it should be let us say PCA on iris dataset in 2D, because why 2D, we have reduced 4D into 2D, right? We have provided n components is equals to 2. Okay, so that's why I have to view whatever data I am having after applying principal component analysis in 2-dimensional format. I can't view this data now in 3D because my n components is set to 2. If I would have set it to n underscore components to 3, then only I would have viewed this into 3-dimensional, and in that case I will have to specify another axis to visualize the principal component 3, but in our case it's not there, right? Then simply show the legend, show the grid lines if you want, and display the plot, whatever you have plotted. Then lastly, as a last step of principal component analysis, you simply print the variance, that is the you need to show amount of information or the amount of information that is called as a variance, which is captured by each of the principal component. So principal component 1 ka variance, principal component 2 ka variance, and the total variance. Okay, so here I will simply print the like I can say that the explained variance ratio, that is PCA dot explained underscore variance underscore ratio, which gives you the fraction of the variance per principal component. Then I will print the total variance that is retained, that is the sum of PCA dot explained underscore variance underscore ratio. Okay, so here I get my original data shape of 150 by 4. I have then I found principal component 1 and principal component 2, and I tried to plot the graph for it, and I am simply viewing 3 flower species, Setosa, versicolor and virginica. So each is having a different color. See, I have specified here colors is equals to RGB. So this is for 3 different species of flowers. Okay. Then I have just printed the variance ratio for principal component 1 and principal component 2, and then I have printed the total variance that is retained in each principal component. So that will be sum of these two components variance ratio. So that's all about this assignment. I hope you are clear with this. It's very small assignment. Only the thing that is required over here is loading of the iris dataset, then forming the feature matrix, like getting the results, getting the features into x and y coordinates. X deals with feature matrix, then y deals with labeling the array in terms of 0, 1, 2 for representing your 3 flower species. Okay, then you simply extract the target names, like whatever flower species you have extracted those species names. Then you print what is the shape of the data set. Okay, then in PCA what you do, you standardize the features. So you create a scalar object with standard scalar, then you standardize the data with the formula value minus mean divided by standard deviation for each of the data point. But this is done internally, and you are simply using standard scalar to create a scalar object, and then you apply scalar dot fit transform to standardize your data. Then you apply principal component analysis to reduce your feature size to some new dimension. So depending on how many dimensions you want to keep, you are specifying n underscore components argument value to PCA, and the PCA will be done for you. And later on you are simply fitting the you are simply going to transform the data with PCA analysis. So that is PCA dot fit underscore transform, and you are providing x underscore scale to that. Whatever features you have standardized, that you are providing as an argument to PCA dot fit underscore transform, and the PCA process is done over here. And whatever you have done, now you are simply going to visualize it for your 3 species. Okay, so that's all about this assignment. I hope the assignment is clear to you. I think you can do the implementation. Shall I give you the code? Do you require it? Yes, students, please acknowledge.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes.